All right, chat, we are ready to go. Get ready to see what looks like a very simple rhythm game, but actually, it's going to blow your minds, I promise you. Let's hear it for LaurieDBunnykins' showcase of Vivid Stasis.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is LaurieDBunnykins, and welcome to Vivid Stasis, a game that has taken over my brain, my life, and my playtime over the past start of 2025. This is as our host mentioned, a rhythm game that seems pretty simple, but gets complicated pretty fast. So throughout the showcase, I'm not going to be talking too much. So, my friend, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Ixiot, and I am the one who actually more or less introduced Vivid Stasis to Laurie. I just adore rhythm games as a whole, so I hope my commentary will be informative and also let people understand a bit of what's going on in the game itself.
All right, and with that, we are going to head into our first song here. Each song has at least 3 difficulties: an opening, a middle, and a finale. But to start, we are going to be playing on middle, just to kind of introduce some mechanics. And we're going to start with Cosmo Ural by Darren and Alternus. So time is going to start when I start the song right here, which is going to be in 3, 2, 1, go.
Now, to begin with, Vivid Stasis is what we call basically a vertically scrolling rhythm game where it just goes from a line and you hit the notes when it reaches that point. As you can see, this one mainly is 4-key, being these 4 lanes that you tap or hold to. But what makes Vivid Stasis unique compared to other rhythm games in the market is the bumpers that show up. These red and blue notes can be hit by either note, either key in the half that they are in. For example, keys 1 and 2 can hit the blue bumpers. As you can see, they add both a visual flair and also kind of its own form of understanding how to hit the note. Starting off with song 1, we are playing a 7 here. The difficulty scale in the game goes from 1 to 17 plus for all of the main songs. And this is kind of the beginner level of middle. And something I wanted to mention about bumpers is that they actually do not have timing windows. As long as you hit them within the general note hit window, you will get the all critical rating. So for sections like this that have a lot of bumper notes in a row, it's quite not as scary to hit as you would think because of such quality for that. Now, this song relatively has simpler charts for its levels, fitting its early placement within the unlocking of this game, because this game is split up into story chapters that are, I would say, equally as important as the game itself. So this one happens to be on the simpler side for being an earlier one you unlock.
And that is our first song of the showcase and our first full combo of the showcase. Unfortunately, I slipped up a little bit and we didn't get an all critical. But to kind of quickly explain what these results mean, we have a breakdown of our judgments. There is an A crit and a standard crit, but if you want to get the all critical, which is this game's sort of perfect, you don't need to get every A crit, although you can get a perfect score if you get every A crit. And then my ranking, a B+, is the highest ranking you usually see on a song, unless you get that perfect score. It is for getting at least 1,009,000 points on a song, where 1,010,000 is the maximum score you can get. But moving into song 2, we have a song in chapter 3 we have Octava by Lundy, which is something I didn't mention about the first song, but if you see in the top left here, the songs actually like state whether they're original for the game or not. And these first two songs I've played are both originals, so really cool to show off music like that.
And speaking of showcases of music, Lundy actually has a good few songs in the game, such as Septimo, which is one of the songs you're able to play within the game's first chapter. And I also want to bring a shout out to Rhythm Games having a ton of collaborations, because this one appears in Spin Rhythm, another PC rhythm game, through their collaboration with Vivid Stasis. A lot of this chart is basically focusing on like more complicated, or not really complicated, but denser rhythms that go along with the lower BPM, which makes it manageable but still tricky for its level. And to explain some basically like rhythm game lingo, streams are like consecutive notes in a row, usually 16th notes, which are like the more closely packed ones. Chords are multiple notes at once. And that's to help fill you in on when I want to explain some future patterning that is used in this game. In this section here, I want to bring mention to the hold notes. Now, I mentioned, some notes have timing windows, some don't. Holds are an interesting case where they do have timing for judgments, but they are more, forgivable in terms of like hitting them on time. And also, unlike some rhythm games, this is one of the rhythm games that don't have end timings when you hit a hold. So you can hold one for as long as you need to.
Alright, and another one great play there, but happens, still a pretty good score. But moving on, we are finally going to get to that third difficulty I mentioned, Finale, which there is a fourth difficulty that not every song has. So Finale is the highest consistent difficulty that you see on every chart. And to show off our first Finale, we have Perfect Confecute by Reiku Mochizuki.
And Reiku Mochizuki is a name you might have heard if you play other rhythm games. They have been in some arcade games, such as Sega's rhythm games. They've really appeared a lot in mobile rhythm games, like Noise Starlight, Orsmic, Figros. And if you've heard of the song Infinite Energy Overdose, that's one of the songs that they have made. Something that I could say that is really good about this song is that, despite, being Finale, it is quite simple for its level. Of course, it's still an 11, so it's not going to be easy, but barring these trills, just the back and forth notes there between the notes and bumpers, I'd say it's like pretty manageable. And that makes it a good introduction to Finale charts. I also want to shout out where the song can be unlocked, which is the Shop Collection, which has a ton of songs from both creators big and small. For example, songs like ESM or Random's more popular rhythm game songs are included in there, and also some bigger artists like Thrums and Camellia. So if those are names that you enjoy hearing in other rhythm games, the song collection has a good amount of those.
May I share some love real quick?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Hell yeah, we've got $10 from Bayan that says, who up vividing the stasis? Good luck, Laurie. And that went to our brand new poll that just opened. We have Save the Frames versus Save the Animals bid war for Super Metroid that just opened up. So if you're not feeling like donating towards that dub bid war for Kingdom Hearts, we do have that new one for Frames versus Animals for Metroid. Make sure you're marking those donations, and all of those are going towards encoring these bits. We only have $111 more to go to get 4 more of these charts shown to us by Laurie.
And something I mentioned is you can put money towards both that poll and the encore, but if you don't have money, but this game looks cool, it's completely free. You can play it on Steam right now. So that's something I think is cool. That way you don't have to spend money on it, and you can donate to our charity. Moving into Song 4, we have a really fun one with Nightshade. You might notice on the top left, on top of the original tag, we also have the gimmick tag. So we're going to see some pretty cool stuff, but just a quick note that when this gimmick tag appears, this is a good time to take like any flashing lights or photosensitivity warnings a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, so as you can see, this one immediately starts with like a lower scroll speed. So gimmicks could be anything from changing how the notes scroll to visibility challenges and many other things that are just completely unique compared to most of the regular charts in the game. And something I want to shout out with this chart are these layered bumper notes. It's one of the like common pieces of like charting that you see in Vivid Stasis, and because of how kind the bumper timing is, or well, really its lack thereof, it makes it a pattern that gets used a lot but doesn't feel hard to hit. And it's used really nicely when it comes to just flavor within charting itself. And something I want to shout out is also Vivid Stasis is focused on smaller artists within the scene. Autoclef and Heartwave are the composers of this song, and Vivid Stasis is actually how I became like kind of a big fan of one of those artists, Autoclef in particular. And I really love that about this game because it gives a unique just identity to this that no other rhythm game has. As you can see in this section, the notes have kind of faded a bit, and there's this like wave pattern to the holds. It gives it this really unique feel. And as you'll see, it also will slowly speed up as we approach the most memorable part of the chart shortly after.
Recent donator Vane refers to this part of the chart as the fun and whimsy section.
Now, in case you're wondering, these numbers here are actually spelling out the words dusk and dawn. If you want to know why they're doing that, go play Vivid Stasis. It's free and has a really cool story, and the numbers in relation to this are a really cool just reference to the story itself in a way. I haven't talked too much about the chart, but as you can see, you know, it gets more dense, a lot of bumper usage within holds. You know, we did jump an entire 3 levels because ever since level 9, plus difficulties become a thing. So it is quite a sizable increase, and we're not stopping here. I mean, if you keep getting 1 great per song, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, this one also had a great and a good and a miss, but it was still a V rank, which means I still did pretty good.
You could even say you did very good. Like some of these donations coming in for y'all. We had a $10 donation with no comment, but we also had a $10 donation from Cheryl Stelly says developer donation that attacks you. Thank you for playing my game.
I am getting attacked by that, thank you. And yeah, Cheryl Selly is one of the main developers behind this game, and also did a lot of the charts. I'm not 100% sure about this one. Worked on this one. Or no, worked on this one.
In fact, look at that. Jacket, the chart, happened to be worked by Stelly, who is, the main mind behind the game.
We can't escape her. But yeah, this is Execute by Ardolph, and this one is pretty fun.
Continuing on to this wild ride here, we have Execute by Ardolph. This is more of this general rhythm game feel that we have. And Ardolph also has another song in the game that, if you play this game, you will be very familiar with. Now, there's something that's very interesting. You know how I mentioned the bumpers that were layered? This pattern with the hold and note is kind of what it looks like to hit that pattern, but, more in a punishing way. It's a very interesting visualization of what that basically asks of you. And yeah, this is just creeping up more on the density in general, and some more complicated patterns. Like that there was just a simple hit right to left pattern, but with the bumpers it makes it look a bit more funky. And a lot of bumper reading can be very interesting, because in this section you only have to hit 2 notes, the ones that are the notes, because they're also usable for the bumpers. So it adds to a very, I think this chart is a good example of why Vivid Stasis is really cool, using the bumpers to highlight the charting itself. And I also want to shout out Execute is a song that's going to be in Project God Hand, which is a game that has a demo out right now, and it's coming out early May, and is another really cool rhythm game where you mash, and it's very much intended. And I will say it's a funny thing that, Cheryl made a donation because she happens to be doing some of the charts for that game. So, hey, there's a little bit of cross-game promotion in a way. Well, it's not one great.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's not. But yeah, that song's just really fun. This game has, I think, a little bit just over 160 songs in it right now, and there are a lot of songs that I forgot how good they were. So I want to give you, in particular, Ixie, a shout out for helping me, especially with the beginning of this set list, where I wasn't 100% sure what songs in the 9 to 13 range I should play. And speaking of your contributions to the set list, coming up next is a song you suggested for me maybe 5 times, and then I added it just on my own 2 days later. If you want to take this one away.
Yep. So first of all, I want to shout out the composer of this, Takahiro, who has songs in games like Figros and Orsmic, and also contributed to a huge collaboration song recently between those 2 games, The Dance of Fire and Ice, and the OS tournament, GTS. And this song here is a very fast song, so it's mainly focused on fast BPM bursts and just relatively simpler patterns that, because of the BPM, makes it harder to execute than you would think watching it. And something I want to shout out about this pattern here, it might be a bit hard to understand how to hit, but knowing you can hit it as just alternating on both sides from blue and red and have that hit perfectly is one of those things that I really like about Vivid Stasis chart reading. And there's a lot about that I think is just very good, and I need to give a shout out to the charting team in general, like, you know, the person who charted this, Tony, and just all of them worked so well to make this game really fun, because I think it would still be a great game, but having the actual gameplay be fun is a really important part that adds to that. Yeah, an extremely bursty section up there. And I want to also shout out, you know, this song is quite different from the last ones we've had, especially the last few, being like kind of more of a more upbeat metal-inspired track. And the song variety in this game is really good. Like, I guarantee there's at least one or two songs that are going to be like in your head for many days after playing them in this game.
Yeah, that song is easily the trickiest we've played so far. But we have another song that's surprisingly tricky, but a lot of fun. Coming up next, we also have a collaboration song. So this game does have a bunch of collaborations with other games. And for the collaboration song I picked for this showcase, we have Ignited by Vivid from EX Driver.
Mm-hmm. And I'll at the beginning speak for itself a little bit before I chime in. As you can see, this is our second gimmick chart, being from the game EX Driver, actually. And within EX Driver, you know, it has some very gimmicky charts here and there, and Ignited happens to be one of them. A lot of this chart's difficulty happens to be similar to Octava, where it's like lower BPM, just focused on density and like general streaming. And you're going to see a lot of that once we get into the song proper, with the drop coming up right here. You can also see other types of gimmicky charts, where it doesn't really focus on, well, it does focus on moving the scroll speed, but it also can move around the notes, like having them shake from left to right combined with the song. And I think that is like a really underrated aspect of charting. If you can do more visual stuff with your charts, it really makes it feel like this chart is playing the song in a super fun way. As you can see, being kind of an evolution of a chart that you would see like Octava, a lot of the chart becomes just more tricky to time, and with like bumpers and holds mixed into that, it's all pretty tough. And even this break part's not easy with the really tricky rhythms. And another big shout out to the holds having nicer timing windows for beginning them, because these like really slow back and forth notes would be way tougher to hit. I also want to bring shout-outs to even the particles in the background, which are colored based on the song jacket, moving along with the song as well. It gives this a really good feeling that matches EX Driver's kind of racing rhythm game mix really well.
GG's.
Mm-hmm.
That song's a bop.
Yeah, that is. And really quick, we do have a song coming up. We had Adaclef with Heartwave earlier. This song is Seraphiel by just Adaclef this time. And it kind of starts with a little bit of a build-up, so if you have any announcements you want to make during this build-up, now's a great time.
Perfect. We have some great donations. We had $5 from Serial Cat that says Vivid Stasis has some of the most unique and enjoyable charts I've ever played in my admittedly pretty short rhythm game experience, and that's why I love this game so much. We also had $25 from Jono99 that said, did someone say more dev donations? And that went towards saving the animals in the Super Metroid run coming up next. And we had $10 from What Joe Said that says, Grode. And we are only $61 away, chat, from unlocking our encore, but we're halfway through the showcase already, so we're running out of time, so make sure you get in your donation so that we can have more of this.
So as we go into this drop here, you will see this song has way more of a focus on bumpers than pretty much anything else we've played before. And it accentuates a lot of like how charting with these bumpers in mind just makes a song feel very unique. And a lot of what you would see in harder charts kind of is shown in an easier way here. And, you know, the charter for this did really good when it comes to that. And this song is featured within Between Space. This potentially won't be the last song we see from there, but Between Space is something that happens during the story that's another really cool aspect of the game. There's a lot that just happens in this game between like the gameplay, the puzzles, the various modes that makes this quite a unique rhythm game, even compared to others in the market that have similar focuses.
Check out this drop.
I was actually going to bring mention to this. This part kind of teaches you how to play it with those back and forths, and then goes into this just intense rush where you have to basically just read these bumper notes alongside the streams and piece that together in your own head. It's really tough, but it's super satisfying when you're able to hit it. Like how Laurie did just there. And our first all critical of the showcase.
I was nervous once I didn't get one early on that I wouldn't get one at all, but there's one. And not the song I expected to get in one.
Yeah, I mean, this clearly means it's easier than a 7, right?
This clearly means it's easier than, yeah. It's, we gotta reevaluate these difficulties, guys.
Oh, don't worry, they'll do that.
Yeah, they'll do that. Oh, we have a story about that. But before we do that, we have a song that I also think needs a difficulty reevaluation. This one is at 0. It's kind of hard though, so I'm not sure. I'm very sorry to do this, but with Marinol by Leaf, I am introducing No Glitches Allowed to a few glitches. Enjoy!
Also, severe flashing warning for this song. Now you might be wondering, hey, what are these blacked out notes with a red outline? These are mind notes, where if you tap them or if you're holding onto the lane as they appear, you lose score or even take health bar damage, since there are different gauges in the game. One of them happens to be that. Now this is a way more visual gimmick chart, as you can see. And I will bring shoutouts to the lower levels of this actually being more accessible charts. But this one is quite a lot, both in terms of the visual effects, which is there on every difficulty, and on the chart itself. Lots of really tough timings and stuff. And I actually want to bring shoutouts to a certain someone who has been helping with a lot of rhythm games, that being Taro Nuke. And basically, his work on the game here kinda is why you have crazy mod chart style stuff like this. You know, the stuff you would see in non-ITG, even like a lot of community stuff like Clone Hero. And, you know, it's more than just inspiration. He kind of wrote the tools that helps make these charts a thing. And really just an impressive person to have on for that. So shout outs to him. And yeah, this song is a very well-known song from the event it appears in, BMS of Fighters, which is basically this yearly like rhythm game contest where a lot of the winning songs there happen to be in other rhythm games via licenses. And this song by Leith has just a very unique story and a lot of stuff for that. I will give a warning if you ever want to watch this. It has a pretty disturbing music video, actually, more on like the psychological side, but it does show some like graphic, like pixelated imagery. So I will give that warning there.
That's not an FC I expected to get on stream. That's my first speedrun too. Let's go! Oh wow. Okay, that was good. Yeah, that is a really, really fun chart, but it's also very tricky. So we're gonna move back to a simpler song before we kick our way into what I consider to be the last push of the showcase here. We are going to go to Sunrise Showdown, which, if you want to explain what that is as we hop into this is Synthesis by TNG.
No worries. So Sunrise Showdown was the second ever Vivid Stasis tournament that went on. If you wanted to ask me how the tournament is ran, I cannot explain because it's very unique in a funny way, but it's very complicated. But basically, they had songs based on like a web show, I think. But this song was one of the finals tiebreaker songs, this being the second one, being not an original, but, you know, Synthesis by TNG, pretty kind of popular song, getting in a lot of rhythm games recently, like the Sega games, Lenoda, Muse Dash. There's a lot of various jacket arts for this song. I will say they did an amazing job with this one. And this one has just a lot of fast and complicated patterns. Very fitting of this very fresh sound that the song and TNG style in general really has.
TNG has another song in this game with a Morse code break. That's not a joke.
Yeah. Hey, as you can see, you know, 14 plus, this is our hardest song yet. It is very streamy with some complicated timings put in the middle of all of that. But I would say it's somewhat straightforward by comparison to some other charts, but still really tough. Now, as we reach this break, if there's any announcements that can be made, now is a very good time to give that.
Yeah, I wanted to remind everybody we're watching No Glitches Allowed 2025, and all our donations are going to go rescue, like this $10 donation from Quacksilver that says, "Leave it to rhythm gamers to make me feel illiterate IRL. Keep killing it, Laurie. We'll get you that encore." And we only have $26 left, chat, in order to unlock the encore. So if you want to see more of this at higher levels than we will see during this main showcase, get in your donations. We only need $26 more left.
And as we approach the very explosive finale of this song, it really just does not let up here. Just continuing on with everything. More bursts. Just really, the charts speak for themselves at this point.
one great, or one good even.
Oh my gosh.
That is my first B+ on that song, I'm pretty sure. No, it's high score though.
That is really good.
Yeah. That's a really fun song. And going from Sunrise to Sunset, it's Sunset Serenade, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Sunset Serenade, which was a contest for songs to be placed in the game. Nightshade was actually one of the winners of that. However, the grand winner and the next song, and one of my absolute favorite songs in this game, we have Bloomin' 2 by Tailspun here. I'm just gonna... This one speaks for itself a lot, but you can say whatever you need.
So yeah, as was mentioned, Sunset Serenade was a song contest that premiered around the same time as Sunrise Showdown, hence the title. And there are a lot of songs that actually got added thanks to it. This one happens to be the grand prize winner, and it has an inclusion in kind of like a very endgame part of the story. And I really love what Tailspun did with this song. Like, there's really nothing quite like this song in, I'd say, really any rhythm game I've played. This like mix of chiptune with elements of breakcore into it, giving this chaotic yet serene feel that feels like very emotional and powerful. And something that I can really shout out with this chart is a lot of these patterns are pretty intense. You know, this is a 15, but they don't feel rude or like difficult. These are a lot of patterns that you would just generally see in other games or just like in other charts. And it makes this chart one that's, you know, not only a very interesting song, but a chart that's very smooth to play. And I really enjoy that. Even with these like more complicated parts, it's something that I really got to shout out the charter for making such an amazing chart for this. And another thing that I want to shout out is as we reach the finale of the song, you would think, you know, being a song in a rhythm game, it would get more intense at the end. But for this chart here, it's kind of the opposite of that. It's one of the calmer sections that's really not too hard to play. And it's another thing that adds to just the feeling of playing along with the song and having it feel represented within the chart.
Just barely not a B.
But you know what is very cool? We hit $2,825. We're getting that encore.
Let's go.
Thanks a lot to Wonder J for a $26 donation, which got us there. Anime Arcade that gave a $50 donation towards the English dub for Kingdom Hearts remix, saying, "Gotta make y'all work for the Japanese voices." And another donation from Cheryl Stelly that says, "Very well, I'll do it myself." Thank you all so much for all those donations.
Mm-hmm. I also want to bring mention to this, being one of the more story important songs. This one, as you see next to the name at the top, is one of the various song banners, or banners for your profile.
Yeah, it's the one I'm wearing. Yeah, so you guys just raised the amount of songs I have left from 3 to 7. So let's get on to that final 3 of the main incentive, because this one is a fun one, and in fact, is on set list because I was in a call with No Glitches Allowed organizer Osborne, playing various songs, and I was unsure if I wanted to add this song, so I asked him and played it for him, and he said very definitively he wanted this song. So this is Nonsense by Hexacube.
And being honest, if they didn't want it, I would have wanted it. This is a really fun one. Hexacube is another artist that I think has really shown throughout Vivid Stasis just how amazing their own style is. And this is another gimmick chart, more along the style of Ignited earlier, where it's more visual flair that adds to the chart with some scroll speed stuff mixed throughout. And it gives this just non-stop feel to this chart that gives it an energy that makes it so fun to play through. And I'm also going to shout out the course mode of this game, where in the hardest course that would give you a Steam achievement, Class 9, this is the first song that's featured in there. So if you have been... Oh, well, it used to be the first, but either way, if you play Course 9 trying to get that achievement, you'll be quite familiar with this song.
Yeah, the courses were reworked pretty recently, and a new one was added, Class Omega. So I have Class 12, which used to be the highest, but it isn't.
Yeah. Omega has, we mentioned 17 plus as the hardest difficulty. It has one of those. And as you can see, kind of what we talked about with Octava and Ignited, it's this somewhat lower BPM, but it's definitely faster here, put into just this dense, streamy chart that really mixes everything, like hold patterns, bumpers, all of this to make a really good test of your skills.
Nice. So, for the record, I want to bring this up as we still have 6 more songs to go. With that FC and not high score by 7 points, if I FC any of the last 6 songs of this showcase, it'll be my first time FCing any of them, so don't expect it, but I'll try.
Yeah, that would be really funny.
Yeah. Heading into our final rush here with our second to last song, we have Sentinel by Cry.exe.
Mm-hmm. Now, Cry.exe, if you play Vivid Stasis, this name gives you fear.
There's a lot of games this name gives you fear.
Yeah, that's true. But in Vivid Stasis in particular, Cry.exe happens to have some of the hardest songs in the game, and Sentinel here is no slouch either. First off, welcome back to the gimmicks. This is not the last time we're seeing... or, well, Nonsense wasn't. And this chart does not stop. There's only one part that I could even say is a break. Everything else really is just a non-stop onslaught. But I wanted to shout out where the song came from and a bit of, Cry's stuff in other games, because this song actually comes from the OST Standard Tournament, the Roundtable, as the second iteration's Grand Finals tiebreaker song, initially being an over 5-minute song that I think has a 6-minute full version. This has been shortened to about half that length, at about 3.5 minutes. And Cry.exe has also made a ton of other rhythm game tournament songs, such as Kaiju for the OST World Cup, for the Beat Saber World Cup. He made one of the grand final songs there, Last Wish, and also has some difficult songs in other games, such as in Orsmic or Figros, also Musings. And it isn't a rhythm game without having one song that has this just speed up section. This pushing to over 400 BPM by the end. And as we reach this break here, if there's any more announcements that could be read, now would be another good time for it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have a couple of polls open. One of those is the Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix Japanese versus English dub bid war. Right now, English is in the lead with $81, but Japanese is not far behind with $42. And, you know, chat, if English does win that dub, reminder that we do have the Japanese restream, because No Glitches Allowed 2025 is proud to partner with the Japanese RTA community to offer a Japanese language restream. You can use !Japanese in chat to be linked to that. But if you want the game to be Japanese, mark it for that poll.
Now, I want to shout out this song at the end becomes quite a challenge, which, speaking of challenge, there was the Sentinel challenge when the song came out, which had many people playing the song to basically unlock it for everyone, and it was a very unique thing that happened within Vivid Stasis. And as we go to the end here, there's these really fast trills that are super tough to hit. But now we have approached the end of this song, and next song would have been the last song, but thanks to your donations, we have 4 more coming after that one.
Yeah, so thank you all again for meeting the Encore incentive. I'm very excited to show it off. But heading into the last song of the main list, before we make our way into that incentive, we have a song that, if you played this game, needs no introduction, and if you haven't played this game, is a great introduction to this game's intensity in its boss songs. We have Unraveling Stasis. Nope.
That's not it?
Anyway.
I mean, that's a song that people are familiar
That's
with.
another really good one. You gotta play the game. But let's go.
Yeah, so Unraveling Stasis is a song by Lavinier Prosh. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correct. There's some artists that when you hear a rhythm game, you think of that artist. This is kind of the #1 artist I think of when I think Vivid Stasis. And her work on this game, especially with Unraveling Stasis, is unforgettable. As you can hear, the song is quite intense, quite just so much happening at once, and the chart here, being the level 16 that it is, really accentuates that extremely well. There's about one somewhat bigger break and one smaller break, but beyond that, it is non-stop difficulty throughout. Something I want to really shout out with this game, we've mentioned the rhythm game aspect, but the story, I think, is just as important in this game as the rhythm game stuff. And, you know, a lot of the more important songs in the game, like Unraveling Stasis, like when you play this, if you've read the story, you pretty much can remember exactly what's going on in the story at this point. I obviously won't say so because, you know, it's spoilers, but a lot of that, gameplay story integration gets kicked into high gear in songs introduced after this, but I think this is the first song that really gives you that feeling of, oh man, there's some serious stuff going on, and, you know, it really makes you want to push on and see everything that has to offer in this. Remember, this game is entirely free. I think it is quite literally a steal for just how impressive it is, and there's still more content to be released. There's another collaboration, an entire offline version to be added on itch. This game's not going to be done until the end of 2025 when it comes to song updates. I'll stay silent as we approach the end here. And yeah, the story is very life-changing for some people. I would say for a certain subset of people, it's kind of like Celeste. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Also 1 minute.
Oh my god. And a really sizable personal best.
Yeah, that one miss was kind of silly too. That could have been it, but I guess I need to keep grinding, huh? So, as I mentioned, that's the end of the main set list. But we do still have 4 more songs thanks to your donations. But I think now is a great time to mention that health is important. So I'm going to take a minute to stretch my wrists and take a break before we get into the incentive, if either of you have anything to say.
We had a $10 donation from Jammy come in that says, I love Last Wish, which I believe is a song on the...
one of the Cry.exe songs you mentioned.
Yeah. What I say is we here love Last Wish as well.
On top of wrist health, stay hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. You said when you think of this game, Lavender Approach is the artist you think of. To start off the incentive, we're going to play our first Encore chart, as the name Encore suggests, and also go to the artist that I most associate with Vivid Stasis. This is Happy Go Lucky by Kyatsuyan. This is not my absolute favorite song in the game, but Kyatsuyan did write what is probably my favorite song in the game, so very high praise.
Mm-hmm. And there's actually a pretty sizable amount of songs by them in this game. You know, the story one that was mentioned, but also a collaboration with Foodbot that is another really good one. That might have been the one, actually. Now, a lot of what the difficulty is in this song, you know, we mentioned how Chronostasis was a lot of that speed. Happy-Go-Lucky is just pretty much pure, like, happy speedcore. So it is a lot of chord notes and just really tough rhythms that go on in this. Now, during this extra showcase, I won't be commentating as much to let our runner focus a bit more. But also, a lot of this chart and the other ones do kind of speak for themselves at this point, after that whole main set list worth of explaining this game. Now, I wanted to ask, you know, you mentioned how much you like Kyotsugan. I wanted to ask, what makes them like a really good artist for you?
I just love that their music feels like a sugar rush, really. Like, all of it. I'm also a big chiptune fan, so this game incorporates it, like, all around. I think some of my favorite is in Kyotsugan stuff.
Yeah. I certainly have a favorite instance of more chiptune sounding songs, but it's a very important song near the end of the story. If you're familiar with the story of the game, you'll know exactly what song I'm talking about. Now, I want to bring something that's a big shout out in this upcoming section. I mentioned how holds are kind of nicer than you would expect. This pattern is one of the hardest hold patterns in this game, in my opinion. Just mixing the notes that you have to tap throughout it all. It is so tough. But now, I'll let you all enjoy the song as we approach the end of it.
Alright. Pretty good. Coming up next is a song that I love to death and is a really cool moment in this game, both story-wise and community-wise. I'll let you explain it.
Yeah. So, something that happens occasionally with Vivid Stasis is they have had ARGs to showcase either lore or future songs that are coming up. Astelion is the final song in something called Final Landing, and this song was the culmination of one of the various ARGs in the game. And what I think is really interesting is the entirety of Final Landing is such an impactful part of this game, but all of it is licensed tracks, including this really fast song by Type R. It's a very interesting song. The full version, if you ever want to listen to it, is 7 minutes, and has a very funny thing in the end of the song. Now, a lot of this song's difficulty comes from being like a very bursty chart, as you'll see here, and mixing a lot of various patterns. And I will say it's a really amazing chart, and I'll let you all enjoy as much of it as you can.
We'll either do really well or my hand will explode. No in between.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Still hear the song of the cosmos.
So as I said, this song, I think it got a rechart actually recently at the beginning of the year, and this rechart makes it a way more balanced chart, but because of that, it really has no breaks. And there's stuff like this stair pattern that mixed with bumper notes can make it quite tricky to read and execute. And it's a phenomenal chart, I think. Now, I'll let Laurie lock in here. And this is like probably the calmest the song will be right before the end, with these mini jack notes, which are the notes on the same lane that are continuously happening. And specific to the encore difficulty, you do have to play this outro here.
Yeah, we take 1 million there.
Wow. Just clutch that double S plus rank.
Yeah. My record on that is 2 misses, which is, as you can tell, probably, or not probably, very difficult.
I could tell that's difficult. I didn't know you had a 2 miss. Dang.
Yeah, I thought I sent it to you. I have a screenshot somewhere for sure.
Always fun too.
But coming up for our third song of the showcase, Encore, we have a song that doesn't actually have an encore chart, but the finale is still a 16 plus. So that's all you need to know. This is Execution Program by Lucimi.
Yeah, Lucimi is another really talented artist, mainly focusing on, I would say, speedcore in their rhythm game appearances. They also have appearances in the Osu World Cup for a sequel of this song, actually. And they're also going to be featured in the upcoming game, Project God Hand. Now, a lot of this song's difficulty comes from stamina. I would say this is the most, like, typical 4-key chart. So a lot of it is, like, very straightforward, but very hard to hit.
And chords.
Yeah. I would say mostly not bumper notes, but there are some patterns there that are really tough, like this, where you have to basically hit, like, 2 notes and then only 1 for the bumper, and a very tricky alternation. I wanted to mention during this little break here that Execution Program is another song that came out around the same time as Stellian, and currently in the story kind of is 2 halves of a whole when it comes to a part of the story, and this song in particular really is a big highlight on one of the most defining moments in the story, and this violent nature of the song fits extremely well with it. This is absolutely one of those charts that you can know just by watching if you would be good at it or not. And I'm like barely good enough. But now we're approaching the end. And yes, the end is quite long. Very nice score.
Yeah, that's a PB by like 500. Cool.
Wow. And this is the first and most likely not the last time you will see a score rank below SS.
Yeah. So, coming up next, we have the last song of the showcase, and a really funny story, because I have beef. So, when we were playing the showcase, the plan was that I wanted to end the showcase on a 17. We mentioned there 17 plus is the highest difficulty. There are only 3 of them in the game. So I thought a 17 would be a great place to show off, like, pretty much near the tippy top of the scale without making me play something that will make my hands explode. I can play them, not great. But the thing is, I kind of cheated a little bit, because up until, like, the moment we started planning the set list, this song was a 16 plus that got rated up to a 17. In an update that dropped yesterday, this song is 16 plus again. So, with that being said, this is Search Wish by Wyvern. It is another song from Sunrise Showdown, and it is going to be our final song.
This song happens to be the second last song to debut within Sunrise Showdown, being one of the semifinals tiebreakers that popped up. And, you know, despite the fact that it's now a 16 plus, it really does not slouch around. A lot of really tricky technical patterning with bumpers, seeing like various like kind of slam patterns and just non-stop rhythms you'll see very shortly. As you can see, there's very much reason why this was a 17 up until yesterday, and it really just isn't a slouch at all. And now we approach this part. And we're coming up on time soon. Once there's a flash in the results screen, that's where time will be called.
That's my first 1 million? Yeah. it
Oh
is.
my god.
And
Congrats.
time. So that is
GG's.
the end of our Vivid States showcase today. I'll make some shout outs first, and then if you have anything you can follow on. I want to shout out, first of all, you for being here to commentate and talk through some of these very challenging songs that I had to focus really hard on. I want to shout out Sawayoshi on the Japanese restream, who is another really good player of this game, and showed off the game last month at CrossFit House 2025, did an incredible job there. Otherwise, we already chatted out a lot of individual members of this game's development team, but I just want to shout them out all again, because again, this game is an incredible piece of work, probably one of the best games you can get for free, and I just can't say that enough, really. So thank you all so much for coming in. I want to shout out to the community too. You guys, I see you in chat, really showed out. I'm not a very talkative person. I haven't hung out in the community much, and you have a lot of inside jokes that scare me. But you're all still really cool, and I appreciate you being here.
And meanwhile, I'd love to shout out the community. Being a part of it, it's been a really fun time in there. For only being there for about half a year, it's a very welcoming and inclusive community, and I absolutely adore it. I also want to shout something out, rhythm games. They are not dead. They are very much alive. Not only games like this, if you can reach an arcade, there's great options there. At home, there's stuff like DJ Max and Muse Dash, Vivid Stasis, all on PC. And on mobile, there's games like Noise Starlight, Figros, Archaea, plenty of amazing games that you should look into and try. And also shout outs to recent ones coming this year: Unbeatable, Project God Hand, and even Polymorphite by the Vivid Stasis team. And one last shout outs to Plurality.
So true. Is that everything you have?
That is all I have.
All right, well then I have just one last sign off. Thank you everyone for watching, and remember, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it's happening. Our Doppel.
Thank you so much, Laurie. What an absolutely amazing showcase, chat, and thank you so much for all of your absolutely amazing donations during that run. We are only $65 away from $3,000 raised for Go Rescue during that showcase, and we couldn't have done it without you all. So stay tuned. We are going to be rolling into our next run so quickly. Chat, thank you all again so much for all of your absolutely amazing donations. We are only $65 away from 3K, and that is due in part a lot from a $100 donation from Anonymous. It says, Subarashi under the sea. I want JP Atlantica, please. And with that, English or Japanese is now in the lead for the Kingdom Hearts final mix. It has $142 compared to the English dub's $81, but we also have another bid war open right now, which is the Super Metroid Save the Animals versus Save the Frames bid war. Right now, Save the Animals is winning by $5, and that is the run coming up next. So if you want to influence whether we save the animals or we save the frames for this upcoming run, make sure that you mark for that poll. Chat, we are so close to our original goal of $3,000 for Noga, and we could not have done it without you. Thank you all so much. But real quick, for me, as Laurie said, make sure that you're drinking some water, stretch your bodies out, move your wrists around, and Noga 2025 will come right back after this quick break.